Alright guys, welcome back. This is another Music Monday. Today, like we mentioned last week, we're going to be doing...
Lil Yachty.
No, we're not going to be doing Lil Yachty. I will fucking stab you in the throat hole. Jared Dines, actually, he's a big YouTuber, big-ish YouTuber. Makes metal music, he does pop music, he works with Daddy Rock, he does a bunch of stuff. He had a band called Dissimulator, which is kind of like a Christian metal band. But we're going to be talking about specifically his light and dark EPs.
His solo stuff.
So, he does a couple of singles, but these two EPs, I think, is two of the best things he's ever written, personally, in terms of metal music. The dark EP, you can go ahead and elaborate on that a little bit. What are your thoughts on it? Just as a whole holistic view.
As a whole, what you just said, because I can't repeat that word. My entire view on the dark EP. I almost forgot what the fuck it was called for a second. Anyway, my thoughts on the dark EP is it's a concept record in my opinion where what I took away from it is it's this dude who has either a near death experience or he does die, and when he does, he sees the fruits of what he's done in his life in the terms of he was a shitty person and now he gets to see all the darkness and shit in the world, or possibly had a trip to hell to see where he was going, or he is there and he's seeing these things and it's slowly fucking him up more and more in the head. That's pretty much my takeaway from the record. I know you have a different opinion.
Yeah, for the dark EP, I think it's just someone's dark senses, like in a sense of being depressed, is the way that I see it. And I like how he starts with the track Afraid to Die, which is literally him talking about being afraid of that one thing that eventually is going to happen to everybody. And the reason why he goes through that is because of the demons that are going through, that he has to deal with on a daily basis. And it's just an overall concept of death and pain. Whether it is both your physical pain, your mental pain, whatever it is that you're going through, your fears in every aspect. He has a song called The Clown's third track. There's about 5 tracks per EP. Yeah, pretty much. And him going through these trials and tribulations as a person and having to deal with those particular fears. I think it's fear, and it's a darkness that everybody gets into with depression and anxiety and all those things. And it eventually goes through him going through the whole, with the Psycho song, him going through those trials and tribulations of being broken and snapping at someone and doesn't give a shit what's going to happen to the people around him. And then near the end of it, it's him going into that point with death sentence where everybody and everything inside is just a total loss. He's not going to make it. He's never going to go any further. Everything is broken down to its most simplistic form. Right. And at the end of the day, this is what I have to do because of all the shitty things I've done in my life. Okay. And this is it. And this is how it's going to end. And regardless of not wanting this to be the end, this is what it is. And that's how I feel about the Dark EP as a holistic view. We can probably dive a little bit deeper with each individual track, but I think each track gives a different stepping stone to him getting eventually to the next EP, and how this one is very, very much so your living thesis of fear and death and destruction and mental instability.
Gotcha. He's saying that could also trigger something that's in my brain, where it could be this dude just going through like a psychotic break.
Yeah, I think it's more so of him having to deal with the broken parts of himself and not really knowing how to deal with it in a personal aspect.
Yeah, kind of like he just like stuffed it all away and it's just coming to the surface now.
Yeah, it's kind of like whenever you don't like voice what's bothering you about something, and then it just kind of breaks, it festers, and now he's dealing with that. Okay. In like real life, in a sense, but it's not necessarily anything that he's gone through. It's all a way that he was feeling desperately. Like there's lyrics in this one here for Afraid to Die. It's the first song on the album, and he says, "Are you afraid to die? Travel to the other side. Are you afraid to die like me?" And I think it's very open about how we all have those like really dark thoughts where we want to end our lives, but he doesn't do it because he's afraid of what's going to happen in the afterlife. And then there's people who are ballsy enough to do it, whether it's gun, to
Gun, noose, razor blade, poison.
Anything in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And it's just everybody's battling with their internal demons. And
autoerotic asphyxiation.
That would be horrible. Like the dude from Kill Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, what's his name?
Chester Bennington?
No, yeah, no, he didn't know.
That wasn't autoerotic asphyxiation.
It's in a movie. Robin Williams, like his son in Greatest Dad in the World or some shit like that. I can't remember what it's called. It's on Netflix. His son kills himself by erotic asphyxiation, jerking off to his girlfriend's panty shots that he took underneath the table at a family dinner. His son was a real piece of shit.
Okay. That's unfortunate. I didn't even know about that movie.
Yeah, it was one of his last movies.
Oh, okay. And then him going back to the Jared Dines Dark EP, it goes into Demogorgon. Demogorgon, as you guys all know, it's the beast that's specifically from Stranger Things. It's also like
a demon in their D&D game.
Yeah, it's a demon. It's in D&D. It's in Dungeons and Dragons, and that's where the character kind of like comes from. And it's a mythical creature and all this other shit. But he talks about it in a sense of being like a demon in his life, I think, in that sense.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from on that.
And how they're only one thing that they live for is the death of others. And it's like whenever you're feeling at the lowest of low, and
there's that one dickhead that pushes you.
There's that one dickhead that pushes you, or it's your mental instability making you feel like that's all there is, and that's exactly what's going to happen to all of us or any of us.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I really find interesting
about
it.
Or like a split personality, like that's your fucking evil side.
Yeah, like if someone's
like pushing you to do all the bad shit.
Yeah, and it's that whole thing. Clown, the clown, not clown, the clown.
The clown, not to be confused with clown.
Yeah, not by Korn, but the clown.
Person.
Is I think a visual representation of like
John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, I mean it's like a song that's literally about about Killer Clown and shit, and how that's terrifying for some people who lived that, and how that's like the darkest and like the most epitomized way that we can think of like evil clowns. Like ICP isn't evil clowns or anything like that. They just make music that people like. That certain people like.
That was a very diplomatic answer, John.
It was. That certain people like, and there's other people like fucking Ronald McDonald's a clown, but he's not gonna go out fucking killing people.
He does. Heart disease and stroke.
Yeah, true. And it's insane, like
burgers.
How much of a roller coaster you get from the Dark EP, and then it goes to him snapping with the Psycho, and then death sentences you at the end, just dealing with your regrets, I think.
Okay.
In that sense. Do you have anything else to say about this album?
Not really. Not too much, because I just don't want to go on a long-ass tangent.
No?
No.
Not really?
But now we're on to the Light EP. And I'm going to be completely honest and forward on this. The Light EP, for some reason, didn't click in my brain as well as the Dark EP did. So this might be John's little segment here.
Like I did for the first album that we just did?
Yeah, because I got my point across.
Oh, okay.
Right? And then we explored deeper.
Okay.
Maybe this will click something.
Okay.
Dick.
The Light EP is a little bit interesting because I think it's literally part 2 of the Dark EP. There is no...
Which one came out first? Was the Dark or the Light EP?
I think it was the Dark EP. They both came out in 2016, so they were only months apart.
Yeah, I just can't remember which one came. I think it was the Light EP, because I think the first video for the EPs was Gaze Into the Iris, wasn't it?
Probably.
Or was it Demogorgon?
I'm going to go ahead and double check that now, and we'll cut this part out.
Let's see.
Where is... He doesn't have that... Light EP.
Could put Light EP release date.
Light EP? Light EP? Okay, yeah. Jared Dines. Release date.
November 20th.
November 20th.
Bam.
And then... Dark.
So the Dark EP.
Yeah, the Dark EP did come out first. Okay, so the Dark EP came out first, and
Okay, so it was Demogorgon. That was the first video.
You know what? Because that's the one where it's all black.
It's the black
It's
and
the
the
black
smoke.
and the hoodie and the shit like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a big.
They love smoke.
They do. There's a big visual representation behind these two albums because in the actual album covers, it's a spider with a skull, and one half is on the dark EP, the light EP is on the right, and you can tell. I guess that's one way to visual represent like which one's first and which one's last.
That does make sense because us as Americans read left to right.
And in the thing in the whole aspect of like the dark EP and the light EP, with the dark EP you're going from the darkest of dark, and then whenever you get to the light EP, as we were going to talk about, the light EP specifically is about emerging from that darkness and being able to stand your ground. I think in that sense. So Rebuild, it's you would think it would have like a bookend feel whenever you listen to the first album and then you go to the second album, the light EP, where for this it's you kind of figuring out like within Rebuild you're going through your emotions again, and you're dealing with the good feelings. You have to have the bad with the good and the good with the bad, and I think that's what he's going with these two albums, or these two, well, I'm going to say albums, the two albums, because they're really diving deep into the way that emotions work. Yeah. And music is an emotional thing for a lot of people. And with Rebuild specifically, grabbing hold of the aspirations I once held, I've always been a lost cause, kind of brings you that humanistic approach to these are the things that I really want to do, and these are the things that I've always started and stopped, and I need to stop doing that type of shit. And being able to go towards that dream and having that support from people that really give a shit is really going to help. And then Gaze Into the Iris, I think, is just a really cool, catchy song. Musically, we'll get into the music aspect a little bit later.
Yeah, that shit stuck in my head, as you know.
Like Gaze Into the Iris, grip tight to the edge of tomorrow. I see you hanging on for your life. Close your eyes and fight, fight, fight. Basically, there's no point in offing yourself in the sense, because it's kind of just a temporary. What is it? It's a permanent solution for a temporary problem, is what they're saying. And if you gaze, you're going to try to look at the most holy of unholy things, or the holy things that are in life.
Yeah. That's
not going to only be the thing that's going to get you to that part of life. So I think it's really cool. Across the Earth is a very, very in your face, straightforward. You have to travel, basically. I feel, and like you have to go from point A to point B to figure out what's in between point A and point B, and discover who you are as a person.
So the reverse of journey. It's the journey.
Yeah.
It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that journey in between is what's going to be why the end is going to be so much sweeter.
Yeah. Instead
of you ending it before you make it to that next goal. So like your goals don't necessarily your goals don't necessarily need to be like an end cap. Like this is it, this is all we did. Cool, like say this video for instance gets 500,000 views, whatever. That's not going to be the time that you stop. You keep going and you make another thing.
I mean, I'm gonna retire.
You're gonna retire at 50 million views.
Yeah,
50,000 views.
Done.
That's it.
Donezo.
That's or 500,000 views. That's 500,000, right?
That's when I'll leave the company.
That's gone. You're just done.
Yeah,
no more. Okay.
I'm done.
I know.
I'll retire on that money
of $20.
$20 whole dollars.
20 whole theoretical dollars. But that's one of the things is I think it's a very like it's the stuff in between of the beginning and the end that makes everything worth it. And you're gonna burn with your passions and you're gonna get them done whether you leave people behind or not. Grigori, it's another Egyptian theme that comes from some of his songs, which is really interesting.
I'm gonna look up what that is because that's bugging me. And we continue with your thought.
No, I was just gonna let you look it up. Pyramids of fractals lay scattered through the lands. Who will rebuild us when our towers of ivory come crashing down? So it's kind of that first line is very.
Oh, okay.
What's that?
It's Jared Dine's little Christian boy stuff. The Grigori, the mysterious 8th order of angels, the gentle Grigori were created by God to earthly shepherds of the first humans.
So they were the first angels that humans saw?
They were tasked with hurting us.
Oh, they were the ones that were keeping us safe.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. So it's more so that's why the pyramids of fractals. Okay, so it's kind of like when Jews were going towards like being led by Moses.
Guidance.
And shit. Okay, so it's a sense of guidance. That's cool. That's awesome. And that's really cool. That's actually a really different way of seeing it compared to what just the lyrics say. So that's cool.
Bam.
That's
I knew
awesome.
that fucking. I've heard that before, and I had to look it up.
11 Days is the last track number 5 for the Light EP. Days dance as the clock ticks so mockingly. We as people have lost so much humanity. Won't you have this dance with me? So take from this is going to be the whole lyrics because it's a very short song. Lyrically it's a very short song. Take from me what you may, but you will never have my hatred. You can beat me, burn me, break me, but my words will not be empty. And we sing, shut your eyes and see the world through mine. Cities of nameless people we judge so carelessly. A picture's worth 1,000 words, but when you see the picture hanging on the wall that speaks of history, speaks soft of the dead. Winter's air brings a morning of the summer, seasons change but always come back the same. But aside all of our differences and look at others before yourself, the truest act of sacrifice. So in that sense, I feel like it's...
Don't be a dick.
Yeah, it's pretty much don't be an asshole. Everyone's going through shit. Time is a bitch.
Try to see yourself in other people.
See yourself in other people's shoes before you judge them for who they are. And that's kind of what I got from that.
Unless they're flat earthers.
Unless they're flat earthers. And go listen to the podcast and listen to our bitching and complaining about flat earthers from the documentary we watched on Netflix. What is it called again?
I'm not going to say it.
You're not going to say the name of the documentary? You don't want any more people to see it?
No, I don't want to spread this.
I think people should watch, because those documentary filmmakers are the ones that are doing the God's work.
They are, because they are great. They're great people. The people who made the documentary are great people.
The people in the documentary are shit. Are the dumbasses.
Beyond the Curve.
Yeah, Beyond the Curve on Netflix. But the Light EP as a whole is a very, I'm safe. These bad things are going to go away.
Yeah.
And it's very number 2 for the first album.
Yeah.
The Dark EP.
Would you say track for track they're like sequels to each other?
I think so. I think track for track. I think actually no, it's as a whole. They're sequels to each other. Like the first one is going to be very dark, and you can tell because of the sound of the music that they make. So the sound of music.
Nazis.
Nazis are bad.
Nazis are bad.
But with the Dark EP specifically...
That's what we should title this video, Nazis are bad.
Nazis are bad. Jared Dines is awesome.
We'll get more clicks.
Right? Nazis are bad, and this is why.
You have been fooled.
Going back to the Dark EP, now this whole portion is going to be us discussing the musical sounds that are made through both of these albums.
You didn't let me get my thoughts on the Light EP, sir.
Oh, sorry. We're going to go backtrack.
You bastard.
The Light EP, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, goes off the second theory I had about the Dark EP, where it was like a near-death experience. Where in the Light EP, he gets brought back and gets a second chance and tries to see the world in a brighter light, in a sense, and stops being an asshole and just betters himself. And it's like documenting his progression and seeing the world differently than he did before, trying to make himself better and understand that everybody's, like, people are people, and to treat everybody the way you want to be treated, even though it's cliche to say, it's kind of how it goes for me in this as the Light EP. And those are my thoughts.
That's it?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Just
as a whole. Awesome. I'm a very in-depth
Gaze
speaker.
into the iris.
So that type of stuff. So the next part that we're going to talk about specifically is going to be like the musicality of the albums. The albums or the album. The Light and the Dark EPs, the Dark and the Light EPs. The Dark EP is a very interesting album because it's very metal.
Yes.
It's very, very metal. It's very heavy. To fit the theme of the album, I think. It's a very deathcore inspired album. Very little singing.
But there is some.
There is some, but there is more screaming. There's some songs that even have like that old school deathcore pig squeal.
Yeah, like the first song.
First song
has pig squeals.
And
as you know, I'm not a fan of pig squeals.
But I think it's very tasteful for the album.
But I dug it. I dug it in this album, even though for the most part I don't like pick squeals.
I used to hate them. I used to hate pig squeals in a lot of different deathcore music,
Mm.
and then it's just that there's bands that do it really well, and then there's bands that do it really horribly.
Mm. And
But
bands that overdo it.
and some bands they do it as a shtick for their whole entire song, for their whole entire basis. But
Yeah.
aside from that, this whole album had a very deathcore feel, which I liked, or a heavy like for all those sleeping type of heaviness.
Mm-hmm. You can see that.
And it was really cool. There was still that metalcore feel. You can hear all of his influences.
Yeah, I felt a little
And
Whitechapel
everything.
in a lot of the songs.
Little Whitechapel, little Lamb of God.
And the technique of his scream.
Yeah.
It was a little Whitechapel-y.
Yep, and some
Philly bows.
There's that, and then who's the two dudes from fucking not Obey the Brave, the other band that they're in together.
You're gonna have to... I don't know these things, John. Shit. Type in...
Despised Icon. Found it. Okay.
There we go.
So one of the vocalists that's in Obey the Brave.
I've heard that name.
Despised Icon is one of the old school like OGs of fucking. Why is this in German?
It says German.
This is all in German.
Maybe because there's a German... I don't fucking know. I can't explain that. Your computer's dumb.
There we go. It's in English now.
They're from Canada.
They're Canadian. Anyway, Despised Icon feel. Let's go back. So, the Dark EP, we talked about that. The feeling of the album, we talked about that. Now, with the musicality, there's some similarities to, like you said, Whitechapel's Phil Bozeman.
Mm-hmm. For the bows.
There's Despised Icon for me, for the vocals entirely for both vocalists from Despised Icon. There's a Lamb of God feel. There's For All Those Sleeping feel. There is a little bit of that Atreyu feel with the music in it for me personally.
Like the composition or the actual playing?
Like the playing of the guitar and stuff like that. There's chugging, there's bass, there's a bunch of everything that you're gonna get out of it, and it's a very fun album to listen to. It's very catchy.
There is guitar. There is bass.
There is metal things.
There is drums.
Yeah, there's all five.
There's all the instruments.
All the instruments are there.
And then there's vocals as well.
Yeah.
Is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it doesn't sound like what I forgot his fucking name. I just did the joke earlier with this can. Lars Ulrich. There's no Lars Ulrich bait drums. Doesn't sound like this.
No, it doesn't. There's no bad musicality in it. There's things that you've heard before, but it's a very refreshed feel for it.
It's very well put together, very well composed, and just.
And Austin Dickey, his buddy, who is also a musician, who's in For the Likes of You, and in a couple of other bands, or did a couple of other bands prior to that, and also did an album with Jared Dines to do this really interesting, which we'll eventually talk about. It's a very interesting take on fantasy and bringing like their favorite forms of like death metal, deathcore, and things like that, and metalcore into it.
I think when they team up, it's really awesome because like. Jared brings all the instrumentation and stuff, and Austin brings in the vocals.
The vocals and the lyrics, I think, too.
Because to me, I like Austin's vocals a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Not digging in on Jared. It's just Austin's vocals to me sound a little better.
They sound polished. They sound like he's done it.
Yeah, because he's been a vocalist.
Yeah.
That's all he had been for a long time.
Yeah.
And then Jared's just fucking multi-talented.
Yeah, he's like
plays
fucking
everything.
Yeah, he's like Matt from Trivium, and shout out to Matt too, because he's awesome and he's really cool. It's really dope though, because like listening to that type of music growing up as a teenager with like metalcore and stuff like that, it's very and deathcore and all those in the 2000s. It's very, very interesting to see people today, almost 10 plus years ago, 15 years in the future, I mean, now being able to still want to listen to play this type of music, and it's a lot of the times the artist is going to play the music that they want to listen to at that time, which is really cool, and that kind of shines light on, and that's not a pun, for the Light EP. That shines light for the Light EP because I feel like for them, the tone, because of the album name, was very much lighter. It's a very easy listen for a metal listener.
It's very attack. No, I'm just fucking with you. It's not attack at all.
It still has its heavy parts. It still has its riffage. It still has its bass. It still has its very like in your face,
like more old school metalcore.
But it has more. No, it has more of a new school metalcore feel to it.
Okay.
And well, I guess you would say a little bit of both. The tuning is a little bit higher up there. So like you can hear the differences that whenever you listen to a song off of the Dark EP, you're gonna listen to something off the Light EP, and you're gonna instantly tell that they're two different things. Yeah. And I really like that because it's black and white. It's literally black and white for the covers. It's dark and dingy and heavy and
my head is
shaky. Whenever you listen to the first album, which is the Dark EP, and then you listen to the Light EP, and you're able to turn the bass down a little bit, turn up the treble a little bit. You're able to listen to the actual music, and there's more substance in the sounds. I guess you would say it's more full, more range in terms of musicality, but you still get that heavy metal feel, that heavy deathcore feel, that heavy metalcore feel with it in terms of music. It's an interesting concept. I like both of them.
Yeah,
Try it again.
It's really awesome having two different concept records while at the same time having them both be the same concept record.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
And I like that because of the fact that you can distinctly tell the difference between the two. All the songs are written really well. Jared Dines has a massive following from our perspective on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on everything.
He's somebody we pretty much watch almost every day.
Yeah, he's a person that him and Austin. Yeah. Like I could watch Austin.
We always watch either a Jared Dines video or always watching a
Dickie Dines
video, or now that Austin's doing his own videos now.
Watching his videos.
Watching his stuff.
Which was a really cool breakdown of him talking about... He has a really cool breakdown of Memphis Mayfire. Memphis Mayfire.
Mr. Matty Mullins.
Matty Mullins and the way that they're going and projecting for their sound. And like Jared Dines, I think what's really cool about Jared Dines specifically is that he is willing to change his sound, not for anybody, but for the purpose of learning a new sound. Because there's that song Goodbye that he did with the vocalist of Daddy Rock, who was originally the vocalist of Rest for Pose, where Jared Dines was originally the drummer of Rest for Pose, and then shit got moved around, and then
he was the guitarist, right?
And then he became a guitarist, and then after that he was doing vocals because the second vocalist left the band, and a bunch of other shit happened, and that's just kind of what we've seen so far. They got their buddy who is also one of their managers for the channel to do the vocals.
What's his name?
Can't remember his name.
Chad?
No.
He seems like a Chad.
But I can picture him.
Me too.
He's
like
there.
Ginger beard.
Yeah. Ginger beard.
He's like a little gingy.
Okay, I guess.
Unless I'm fucked up in the head.
I can't tell if he has no red hair from what I've seen. It was like dark brown.
Name? I'm just gonna go with Chad.
Cool. That's who it is. I'll try to find a picture, but I'll try to put it somewhere in the video. But it's really cool because they did that Goodbye song with that vocalist and Austin Dickey, and it's a very fun listen.
Go find that song and listen to it. It's fucking amazing.
Basically, metal musicians make a pop song and
with metal lyrics.
And it's really fun to listen to in that sense. And just going from there, and Austin Dickey's we'll probably review something that Austin for the likes of you eventually. Yeah. Will be reviewed, and I'm sure that they're going to continue making more music, and they're going to continue making more content. But in that aspect, I'll put the Light and the Dark EPs down in the description. Yes. If you want to check them out on Apple Music or something like that, that's the primary service that I use. I don't use Spotify.
I just use Apple Music.
Yeah, I just use Apple Music and YouTube to find bands. But yeah, we'll put the albums in the description. The Light and the Dark EP by Jared Dines. Also, finding out that some of the lyrics are written and some of the songs are written by, co-written by Austin Dickey.
Yes.
Which in the future we're going to be talking about Austin Dickey's band For the Likes of You and potentially anything else that he's in.
Yeah. Which would be dope.
Cool. And we're going to send this directly to you as well, Jared. And you can show it to the rest of the people there and see if you guys like it. If you guys like it, cool. If you don't, cool. It's whatever. This is our perspective on your music, and we're really big fans, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
What John just said. And thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, bell icon, all that shit. Follow us on social media. Links in description.